Hey guys, welcome to your YouTube channel, Your IT Learning. So this channel is more dedicated towards helping you grow in world of IT and business. So here you will find videos on business analyst, Scrum Master practices, product owner, Agile, Scrum, and many more. Whether you are just starting your career or looking to sharpen your skills, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel where you find very useful videos for your preparation and enhancements. So let me start sharing my screen and we can start up. So today we are here to talk about interview preparation for Scrum Master. A lot of subscribers on my YouTube channel did ask me about creating videos on Scrum Master interview preparation. So today we're going to talk about that. So let me present my screen and start the discussion. So today we are here, as I said, Scrum Master interview preparation, PowerPoint number one. I will going to create series of interview preparation for Scrum Master, starting with this number one slide, number one PowerPoint, I will say. We'll go into more in detail. So today we're going to talk about what is Scrum, how is it different from other agile methodologies or waterfall. So agile and waterfall are the two most common methodologies right now. What are the roles in Scrum? Describe the responsibilities of a Scrum Master, product owner, and Scrum team. What are Scrum artifacts? Explain product backlog, sprint backlog, and incremental. So this PowerPoint is not only for Scrum Master, it can be for BA product owner because all these terms, technologies are being used in everyone's life. Either you're product owner, business analyst, Scrum Master. What is a sprint? What is an ideal duration of a sprint and why? How do you facilitate Scrum ceremonies like daily stand-ups, sprint planning, sprint reviews, sprint retro? How do you help a team become self-organized? How do you handle conflicts within team? What are some impediments you have removed as a Scrum Master and how did you resolve them? What is your process of ensuring transparency, inspections, and adaptation in your team? Describe a time when your team failed to meet a commitment. What steps did you take and what were the outcomes? So let's start in detail in step by step in questions. So the first question, as I said, what is Scrum? How is it different from other agile methodologies or waterfall? So Scrum is a agile framework used for developing complex products in an incremental way. That's why agile is so popular because it brings a product every iteration, every sprint. Work is delivered in small time box iteration called sprint. And whenever the work needs to be delivered in small, it's easy to create, easy to build. Scrum promotes frequent inspection and adaptation. So you can know if the product is being what the product is being built is right or wrong. You can show it to your stakeholders, get their thoughts. Such Scrum promotes, as I said, frequent incremental and adaptation, which you can get it checked, high team collaboration, and customer feedback. So, all these things make sure that you are building the right product for your SMEs or the stakeholders or the business. Example, in a mobile app project, Scrum help us deliver new feature every 2 weeks based on user feedback or business feedback. Compared to Waterfall, where testing would only begin after the full app was built. So I will explain in the next one. Waterfall is goes step by step. The other set of like if you are in design, if you are in requirement, the design will not start unless and until requirements are complete. But as compared to agile, you can go to design, you can come back to requirement, go back to design again come back to requirement, enhance your requirement, go back to design. So that's why agile is so popular. What are the key differences? Waterfall is linear and sequential. So as I said, requirements, design, development, testing, deliver. Design will not going to start before requirements. And requirements need to be complete so that the design can start. Development only will going to start once the designs and the requirements are done. And you can't come back. Once it's done, it's done. You go in the forward direction. You can't reverse back. But as compared to agile, it's iterative with regular feedback integrated at every sprint. So if you find out during the sprint that some product is not built right, you can go back, gather the requirements again, and bring the same user story back to the product. I mean the Scrum, or I will say the sprint actually. Other agile methodologies are Kanban. focus more on continuous flow than fixed length iterations. So the next question which comes is, what are the rules in Scrum? Describe the responsibilities of a Scrum Master, Product Owner, and a Scrum team. So as a Scrum Master, what is your role? Facilitate Scrum ceremonies, and these ceremonies ranges from refinement, grooming, daily stand-up, planning, retro, demo. So the Scrum Master facilitates Scrum ceremonies, remove impediments, and ensure impediments means difficulties, and ensure that the team follows Scrum practices. So like an example, I noticed daily stand-ups were becoming status report. So the daily stand-up is every day for 15 minutes where all the team members connect and let everyone knows what are the things they are working on, is if they have any difficulties, they are open to discuss with everyone. So I noticed the daily stand-up were becoming status report. I restructured them using a yesterday, today blockers format to refocus on collaboration. So these were the questions being asked. Well, what is a product owner? He manages and prioritizes the product backlog, ensuring the team is building the right product. So he creates a product backlog, and he's the person who let the other team knows what are the priorities and what are the things need to be worked on right now. Example, in one project, the product owner worked with stakeholders to reprioritize features after market feedback, helping us pivot fast. Scrum team, cross-functional team members. It will consist of developers, testers, responsible for delivering the sprint incremental. So Scrum teams also have, business analysts, architects, product owners, developers, QA testers. So this all these people are part of the Scrum team. Example, our team self-organized to share testing responsibilities when the QA was on leave, ensuring no delays. So there's quite good collaboration between teams as well, or we'll say team members. What are the Scrum artifacts? Explain product backlog, sprint backlog, and incremental. So what is product backlog? If you remember on the previous slide, we talk about product owner manages the product backlog. He prioritizes what things need to be done right now, what things can wait. The list of all desired features created and requirement maintained by product owner. So the product owner actually creates the user story on a higher level. Maybe he creates a shell and then he work with the business analyst to put more details in here. So the role of a business analyst is to gather the high level requirement from product owner and then work with the stakeholders to get more in detail in the user stories so that the user stories can be brought to the Scrum ceremonies like Scrum refinement first, grooming second, then planning, retro, demo. So for example, our e-commerce site backlog includes items like add PayPal integration and improve search filters. So the product owner will define if he wants to work on add PayPal integration first or improve search filters. So he will going to talk to the stakeholders and understand what are the priorities for them and also to understand what are the things we should do right now to get the best return on our investment. Sprint backlog. The selected items out of product backlog. So the product owner decides what other things need to work. Those things comes to the sprint backlog. So the selected items from the product backlog, the team commits to deliver in sprint. For example, for a 2 week sprint, which is 14 days, and if you take out 2 weekends out of that one, so basically it's 10 business working days. For a 2 week sprint, we pulled a 5 user stories, including implement wish list and fix login bug. Increment, the working product version created during the sprint, meeting the definition of done. Example, at the end of the sprint, we deliver a fully working product filter feature that was ready to release. So in every sprint, we work on small user stories. We try to create, the user stories have story points. The story points are 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. We always try to create a user story with minimum user story points. Like the user story should be as small as possible because it is easy to deliver on that one. And if something is small, we deliver on time. We are also able to find out if something is not working very quickly. So that's why the user stories in Scrum or in Agile, we try to create as small as possible. So what is sprint? What is the ideal duration of a sprint and why? A sprint is a fixed length, eventually usually between 1 to 4 weeks, where the team delivers a usable product incremental. Ideal duration is 2 weeks. I have working in the IT industry for a decade long right now. Any of the companies I have worked, the sprint was always 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the most effective because it allows quick feedback, helps the team adjust rapidly to the changes, key focus and momentum is high. So that's why 2 weeks is highly recommendable and used everywhere in the IT industry. For example, in our project, we initially tried 4 week sprint, but found that feedback loops were too slow. Switching to 2 week sprint improved engagement and delivery quality with the help of stakeholders and the SMEs. How do you facilitate Scrum ceremonies like daily stand up, sprint planning, sprint review, or sprint retro? So daily stand up is always in the morning, roughly around 9 a.m. Keep it under 15 minutes. It is always less than 15 minutes. I ask each member to share what they did yesterday, what they planned for today, and any blockers. So if anyone asks you, what is the three main questions of a daily stand up? These are the questions. So the Scrum Master always asks each and every person in the room what they did yesterday, is their plan for doing today, and any roadblockers. So they will ask the BA, product owner, quality assurance. They are asked the architect, developers. Mostly the question is towards the developers and the QA, but everyone can tell others what exactly they are working on. So the other team members are also updated what are the things a BA is working on versus architect versus QA or developer. Sprint planning. I guide the team in selecting backlog items and defining a clear sprint goal. And this backlog items, it comes from product owner who defines like these are the user stories which needs to be worked on. But once he decides, then it's the job of a scrum master to make sure that selected backlog items are clear so that the sprint goal is defined. Example, we use planning poker for estimation whenever you have to estimate the user story, then we always use planning poker. Most of the companies I have worked have used planning poker for estimation and clarified acceptance criteria before committing. Sprint review, I invite stakeholders to see the demo, share feedback. Example, a stakeholder once suggested UI changes during a review, which we added to the next sprint backlog. So sprint review or sprint demo is very crucial. The last is sprint retro. Is actually to understand what other things are working good or like a sprint review, I will say the team review. I use techniques like start, stop, continue, or four else: liked, learned, lacked, longed for. So, for example, we're going to ask what are the things we should start working on during the sprint? What are the things we should stop working on? What are the things we should continue working on? So, take an example. I'm working as a business analyst, and the Scrum Master says, Jeff, what are the things you want to tell for these three things: start, stop, continue. So maybe I gather the requirement very great, and during this sprint I did not brought any new user stories into the sprint. So once the sprint starts, no one likes a new user story to be brought into the sprint. So the Scrum Master will says, Jack, keep continuing it, that you don't bring new user stories on that one. Stop bringing any user story in this one and start telling stakeholders who tell you to bring a new user story once the sprint has started. Stop telling them that we don't include the new user story. So as a feedback to me, the Scrum Master will say these are the things you should do, Jack. So for example, a recurring issue with unclear task led us to improve our definition of ready. Okay. So quick summary table, okay? So what are the ceremonies, what are the time box, what is the purpose and example outcomes? Sprint planning, normally 2 to 8 hours depending upon the sprint length. It decides sprint goal, backlog items, and example outcomes will select wish list feature. Daily Scrum, 15 minutes daily, sync on progress and blockers, and we answer three questions: what you did yesterday, what you will going to do today, any road blockers. Identify test environment issues. Example, sprint review. So it's basically your team review. What are the things happened good in the last sprint? What are the things didn't happen good? So you analyze those. 1 to 4 hours, show deliverables and get feedback. Oh, actually, this one sprint review is the sprint demo actually. So it's 1 to 4 hours. You work with the stakeholders, show deliverables, get feedback. Stakeholders suggest new features. Sprint retro is actually your team review. 1 to 3 hours, process improvement, agree to clarify API requirement early. So maybe the last sprint we were working on, the API requirements were not clear and we didn't discuss it in more details and we had some questions. So now we are agreeing that we should clarify all new requirements as early as possible. So in this case, it's an API requirement. So it can be a different requirement next time. Backlog refinement, ongoing, 10% of the sprint, prepares backlog for future sprints, breakdown, product filtering, features. So we finished fifth. Now let's go to how do you help a team become self-organizing? I encourage autonomy by giving the team ownership of their work and decision making. Example, instead of assigning tasks, I encourage the team to pick their own user story during the sprint planning. Over time, they begin cross training in each other roles, which improve flexibility and reduce bottlenecks. I also supported skill building sessions and retrospective to reflect on how they could better manage their own work. So, as a Scrum Master, your overall goal is to make sure, the team is improving every day. The team is, following all the Scrum ceremonies. These are the challenges for a Scrum Master to make sure, team is reviewing things on time. They are making sure everything is working. Some of the times a user story is sitting over there, no one is working on. Make sure everyone is working. Someone is working who is being assigned to. So as I said, the main role of a Scrum Master is like a teacher of a team. He has to make sure everyone is working on the things they are supposed to. There's no bottlenecks, there's no roadblockers. If there is, he will make sure that who is stuck gets the help from someone. So Scrum Master will make sure. Business analyst is another person who can make sure that everything is working as scheduled. How do you handle conflicts within your team? That's a very important question being asked so many times. I promote open communication and create a safe space to voice concern. I remain neutral and guide the team to resolve issue respectfully. For example, when two developers disagreed on the approach for implementing a feature, I facilitated a brainstorming session where both presented their ideas. The team voted for the best suited one, and we documented learning for future decision. So this is the meeting which Scrum Master created to resolve the issue. But business analyst was there, product owner was there, architect was there, other developers was there, so they can vote what are the best thing we should do. So we can decide how to move forward. What are some impediments or difficulties you have removed as a Scrum Master, and how did you resolve them? For example, developers were waiting days for API access. I escalated the issue with the infrastructure team, set up a dedicated support channel, and API access was provisioned the next day. So it's like it can be an example. Developer was waiting for an API access and he was not getting that access. So maybe in the stand up, he said to the Scrum Master that I don't have the API access. How should I work on my user stories? So that's how the Scrum Master helped him. So he get the access quickly. Example 2, a team member was consistently blocked due to unclear requirements. I work with the product owner to improve backlog grooming session, ensures clarity and reducing back blockers. So maybe a user story was created, maybe a developer or QA was not sure how the requirements are complete. So as a Scrum Master, we made sure that the user story should have all these things to make sure that the user story is complete. The user story should tell what exactly we are doing. The acceptance criteria should be clear. If there is any mock-up, it should be connected with the user story. What is your process of ensuring transparency, inspection, and adaptation? Scrum pillars in your team. Transparency, we use Jira to track tasks, maintain a definition of done, and keep sprint board updated. So, Jira is a software which is quite used in most of the companies for, maintaining the user stories, backlog, and everything. And as a Scrum Master, you should say, you encourage everyone to write down all the comments, everything related to the user stories in the Jira. So everyone knows what the current status is. So take an example, a Jira. user stories being worked on, and the developer called Robin is working on that one. So if I am as a BA, I want to tell Robin something, I will going to write a comment in that user story which he's already working on and will tag him. I will say at the rate Robin. So as soon as I put a comment in the comment section, will says at the rate Robin, Robin, the developer will get a notification straight away onto his email that Jay has tagged something, and it is something I should be aware of as a developer. Inspection, daily stand-ups, sprint reviews, and retrospective help us reflect and check progress regularly. Daily stand-up is very important because it provides the update to everyone else. Sprint reviews like demos and retrospectives help us to reflect and think, understand what are the things we should continue, what are the things we should change, what are the things we should stop doing. As I said, take an example. I bring a new user stories into the already started sprint. So the Scrum Master, the next time will say, Jay, in the sprint review, in the sprint retrospective, he will say, Jay, stop bringing the new user stories to the sprint which is already started. Make sure you bring the new user story in the next sprint. Adaption. Retrospective leads to actionable improvements each sprint. So we create actionable item which we start doing from next time. Example, after noticing delays in deployment, we adapted by automation parts of the pipeline which improved daily delivery speed. Describe a time when your team failed to meet a commitment, what steps did you take, and what was the outcome. So, for example, we committed to deliver a reporting dashboard in one sprint, but underestimated the complexity of the integrated data sources. So, the data will be coming from the other sources. So, we didn't analyze it better, the complexity of those. Actionable items. In the retrospective, we identified the root cause of the insufficient technical search. Moving forward, we introduced spike stories for research before development. So whenever you hear spike stories is basically a research story, a user stories before the actual user story can be started. So sometimes we will assign the spike story to a developer to understand, like, create this a spike story for your test or for your research, and then bring those research outcomes to you so we understand what are the things we should be aware before we start an actual story. In the next sprint, we successfully delivered a similar integration with proper estimation and stakeholder alignment. So summary of this PowerPoint is Scrum is a powerful agile framework built on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Success relies on clear roles, effective ceremonies, and well-managed artifacts. A Scrum Master supports the team by removing impediments, or we can say roadblockers, coaching self-organization, and fostering collaboration. Teams must be cross-functional, self-organizing, and committed to continuous improvement. Challenges like conflicts, miscommitments, or blockers are opportunities for growth when handled constructively. Embracing Scrum's principles enables delivery of value, working products, sprint after sprint. Scrum teams for clarification and backlog refinement. So this is the end of the first PowerPoint for interview practice for Scrum Master. Stay tuned. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe because I will create more videos around Scrum Master interviews, business analyst interviews, product owner interviews, and many more. Thank you so much, guys.